Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks and our Summer of Reliability series, brought to you as always by Little Brown Dog Coffee. As you may recognize, this is our 1965 Chevrolet C10. The problem we're going to start addressing today is the "we've got no gusto" under load after 2,500 RPM. We're gonna solve that. It's important. We need to be able to go up hills at speed. All right, let's power through the basics if it's your first time here. First of all, I'm Ryan. Welcome, thanks for joining. This is a 1965 Chevrolet C10 with a 230 or 250 inline six, at least 150,000 miles on it. Bone stock-ish, I think. We're talking points, haven't checked the points in who knows how long. Running a stock single barrel carburetor without an air cleaner for who knows how long. Yeah, the situation that we have is the truck runs fine, it starts fine, it's a daily driver, but under load, tested it in at least second gear and third gear. It's a 3-speed on the column. It just can't pull above 2,500 RPM, which means I have highway gears in it, so at around 2,500 RPM, let's say I'm doing 70 miles an hour, if I hit a hill, it doesn't matter what I do to the throttle. Like, I'm only partially in the throttle to keep it going on flat ground, but if I hit it, I get nothing. And if I start going uphill, it starts slowing down and there's nothing I can do. That gets a little bit dangerous because the tractor trailers are barreling down on you and you're slowing down. We're gonna dive in and see what we can do, but we're gonna tune it in a different method than maybe you guys would do at home, or if you have no idea, then just follow along. There is no doubt whatsoever that this thing could probably use a tune-up, because I don't even remember the last time I pulled the distributor cap off. So I haven't adjusted the points, I haven't looked at them, I don't know how burned they are, I don't know how much is left. And given the quality of points these days, I don't remember when I put the last set in, these are probably hammered. But here's the situation. It's currently running and driving and functioning relatively consistently, even albeit not doing the thing that I needed to do on the highway or really uphill in second gear. I get the same situation at 40 miles an hour in second gear on surface roads. I need to adjust things one at a time, right? I could do a full tune-up, I could do plugs, I could do wires, I could do cap, rotor, all that stuff, condenser. But I won't know which one of them solved the problem if I drive it tomorrow, let's say, and I have an improvement. I don't know what improved it. Alternatively, if I don't see an improvement then, well, then I've just done a bunch of stuff and I'm not solving the correct problem, although that would be routine maintenance and probably generally a good idea. And then finally, if I did all of that stuff at once and I develop a new problem, well, let's just say I got a new set of points out of the box that was bad or something, or a new condenser out of the box that was bad. If I changed a bunch of things, well, I might not know what it is that I did, what made it worse. Gotta be methodical about this. It's like wax on, wax off before you get to learn how to do full karate, because there's a lot of things that could be causing our problem. And I've got a guess at one that we're gonna try. We start, we run pretty well, pretty consistently, pretty regularly. We just lose power at 2,500 RPMs. Let's postulate on all of the things that, you know, could cause that or could contribute to that, because it could be a combination of things. Let's just play a game of like Clue. Like, gasoline in the carburetor at 70 is not enough gas. Meaning, what if we don't have enough fuel flow? Well, we could have a clogged filter, we could have a weak fuel pump, we could have some issue just with the carburetor in general. We could have a vacuum leak somewhere, anywhere, intake, carb, you name it, anything. On the electrical side, what could it possibly be? Well, our points could be bad, our coil could be tired, our plugs could be filthy, our plug wires could be tired, giving us a weak spark, especially at higher RPMs. In addition, the timing could be off. So what I believe I did to adjust, maybe help the potential overheating issue was I think I set the timing back to stock, which is 4 degrees before top dead center on these things. And that may be just too little timing for high RPM, ethanol gas, all the things. If I adjust the timing, give it a little more advance and just see how that does, well, if that doesn't change anything, well, we still have all of these other things to look into. But if we adjust the timing and we get some kind of result, because we will, either in cold starting or hot starting or drivability or maybe even an improvement at 2,500 RPMs, then we can move forward and maybe tune it up. If not, it's very easy to turn the timing back down to what we know it was, right? Because we'll get a mark now, and we can return to like our base 0. That's a little harder to do if you start adjusting carburetors or changing points or, you know, swapping stuff around. So as our first step, we're just gonna try to check the timing, and if it needs adjustment, we're gonna adjust it. And if we adjust it, we're just gonna leave it there until we drive it and see what that has changed. To check the timing, if you've never done this before, you need a timing light. I recommend buying the fancy ones. In fact, I used the El Cheapo ones that didn't have any of this dialification for years and years and years, mostly because I didn't want to spend the money on the fancier ones. And then, in fact, I think the last time I checked the timing on this, I got the cables caught in the fan and it just shredded everything and broke my fan belt. So I got a new fan belt. And then I had to buy this because it was the only one on the shelf. But honestly, it does some cool things. It'll tell you sort of the RPMs. It functions as a tachometer. And I've never actually bothered with this, but you can check total advanced, some other fancy things. They're pretty simple. You wrap this guy around spark plug number 1, get yourself some positive, get yourself some negative, and clear all the cables out of the way. Fire it up, point it at the harmonic balancer, and Bob's your uncle. So here we go. Let's make 0 assumptions here. Negative to negative, ignore that color. This broke, it was the only one I had, but I assure you it's the negative if you, well, I can't show you. Anyway, that's negative to negative, positive to positive. And then this guy, it goes on loose. So it may, you know, you may be inclined to like clamp it. That is not the idea. We're not like doing the old Jed clamp it like that. We're doing, stick it through, it goes in the little slot, should have a little movement. Tuck all the cables out of the way because your fan belt will be spinning. You're gonna point this War of the Worlds kind of periscope light down at your timing tab, which, you know, let's see if we can get in there and see that. I got a 0 for 0, and I've got an A for advanced. I don't know if you can really see that. Advanced, it feels tricky. That means before top dead center, meaning your timing, 0 is top dead center. If you're before top dead center, then you're advanced. Does that make, it feels confusing. All right, gang, so one more thing. You're gonna have a vacuum advance on here, probably most likely, which is this vacuum line going somewhere from your carburetor down to the vacuum advance port on your distributor. My preferred method is just to clamp it off with a vice grip because then I can undo it. If you undo it at the carburetor, you may have a vacuum leak. If you undo it at the distributor, you may have a vacuum leak. Bam, just fold it over on itself, clamped, no vacuum going through there. Showed me that I'm pretty close. I think I'm actually 4 degrees before top dead center for the 230 inline 6. It's just an old spec book. It's a good starting point. Now, it's my understanding, and this may be wrong, that these engines, in theory, like 30 degrees of total timing, meaning the initial timing plus the mechanical advance of the weights in the distributor that create centrifugal timing, not including any vacuum advance. So what we're going to do is fire it back up, kind of run it up on the carburetor to 3,000 RPM, and with our timing light, the fancy thing about this is when it's at 0, 0 here, it gives me accurate readings. But let's say I advance it, it will flash 13 degrees advance, which means, let's say our engine's running at, well, let's do this let's say I set it at 5 degrees advance. Well, my timing is currently set at 5 degrees. So this light will flash and it will be at my 0 mark. So I can actually check total timing by, say, advancing that thing until the timing mark is hitting top dead center on my timing tab. If we don't have enough total advance, that may be our issue. We're at 4 or 5 degrees initial. When we wind it up to 25 to 3,000 RPM, we're at about 28 total, which means, you know, in theory, we can safely go up 4 degrees of timing. And I think it's worth a try. It doesn't seem like much, but it might be significant. May change how the car starts, may change how the car pulls up hills, may change nothing, but I think it's worth a shot, because if that actually gives it a little more oomph, at least we know we're kind of headed in the right direction, and kind of we're optimizing at least what the internet seems to agree is optimal timing, despite what the manuals say, which is 4 degrees further advanced, 8 before top dead center. Some people are running 10, 12. Some people are running everything if you look on the internet, but going up to 8 degrees before top dead center and then having what should calculate to 32 total advance should be a pretty significant step in the right direction to burning this fuel under load, especially because I don't really know how to take into account ethanol gasoline that I run in this car for these circumstances. It's as simple as loosening the distributor, turning it a little bit, and tightening it. Now, unfortunately, on the inline 6, let's take a look. You gotta be over here to see your timing, and you gotta be over here to spin your distributor, which is kind of an unfortunate truth, but that's the reality that we're living in. We'll go ahead and, I guess, set it to 8 or 9, and then we'll let her rip. We gotta take her through the paces. Now, one of the reasons, just to state, that I set this timing back, whenever the last time I set the timing was I had a bit of an overheating issue. So I don't know if that'll make that any worse, but we're gonna find that out too, aren't we? Because so far, we have not done anything to address the cooling system since it has continued to overheat. So, right, here's the joy of old cars. It's all just rudimentary. I don't know if you can see that under there, but there's a little hold down and a bolt that just clamps this thing in tight. I've loosened that up just enough so I can rotate it by hand with a decent amount of force, because what I don't want to do is turn it too much at once. Like when I say degrees, that thing will spin 360 degrees. We need to move it 4, because, you know, circle 360 degrees. I do this with a gloved hand, so I need to find a glove because I have been zapped by a bad coil wire way too many times. Because basically, if you're sweaty and hot and you're leaning on something, like it's hot out today, then, you know, sometimes you are the shortest path between that coil going kapow and the ground spot on the car. All right, so I've got my wrench handy to tighten it down, and I have indeed actually moved it already, obviously by loosening it and showing you how it is. So I've already adjusted the timing for better or worse, because I moved it back and forth, which is, you know, advancing and retarding it. So let's fire it up, check the timing, see if we can dial into 8, 9 degrees and call her day. We're at about 7 degrees. Let's go a buzz more. Looks like a little more than a buzz. We are roughly at 9 degrees. On a small block, I'll typically tighten it down while it's running, but in these inline sixes, it's just difficult enough to get to. It's just precarious enough that I prefer to shut her down, tighten my bolt, and then, you know, test everything. Sometimes I gotta go back in and do it all over again, but that's my comfort level. You do you, guys. Distributor is tight, back where it's supposed to go. All right, gang, we're gonna pack her up. I'm gonna bring the timing light with me because, you know, 40-mile away from home test drive is no joke and no place to get stranded. So we're just gonna use all the tools and bring all the tools that we used today with us, just in case something goes catastrophically wrong when we hit real testing conditions. Real testing conditions for us are going to be the same road where we were having issues, like the exact same road. And we're gonna repeat that over and over and over again until we can try to like make it better. And that makes it worthwhile. There's a paradox with driving an old car every day. The first part of it is you get to test things, and if you try to change something, well, then you know if your change worked relatively quickly because you're driving it again the next day and the next day and the next day. The other side of that is that if you drive these old cars every day, well, I don't know when it got sluggish. Like, I don't know when it stopped performing like I think it should, or if it ever did, because I drive it so often that whatever change, whatever was, you know, whatever's going on happened gradually, and I drive it under every kind of condition known to man. So it's like, I don't know what's causing the issues, and you can hardly even tell. It's kind of like watching a friend get fat, you know, like if you see him every day, you don't really notice. If you're gone for 2 years and you come back, you know, you notice a change there. Let's put it on the road. Oh, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but one of the first things I did do was make sure that our throttle was opening to wide open throttle via the gas pedal. I did indeed check that. So it is, and it's functioning properly. So if you're having a similar issue, that's a good place to start. A clogged air cleaner will also cause similar issues. That's not a problem here because we don't have one. But, you know, if you do. Part of the reason I don't have one is, well, it fell off. That's the main reason. Let's pack this stuff up, and I will see you guys in the morning for the long haul to work, and we'll see if we've made any improvements. So I did such a good job of keeping my timing light wires out of the fan, unlike I did last time, that I laid it right on the exhaust. We'll fix this with E-tape. But dang it, man. It's pretty early. It's also much cooler than it's been in a while. I think it's like lower 60s, which is, I mean, I've been waking up to 80 degree, 100% humidity for the last week and a half. So this is absolutely lovely. But I thought I'd bring you along for this cold start, as it were. Typically the ritual on this truck is to pump the gas 6,800 times because there's no choke to richen the mixture and make it, you know, even with all of the air that goes in. And I thought I would just try to fire it up straight off and see what 4 degrees of timing does on a cold start. It should affect cold starts and hot starts a little bit, but we'll see what it means. So there we go. Okay, that was no pumps. It tried to fire off. All right, let's give it 3. That's less than usual. We're gonna hit the road. We got about an hour drive. Rush hour traffic. All kinds of conditions. You know the ones. Oop. The thing I'm most curious about really is if it pulls any better on the hills, you know? This afternoon it's going to be much hotter out, so that's when we'll see if it actually affects the temperature of the vehicle. But for now, we're just wondering if the timing is going to give us any performance and sort of burn our fuel a little better and get more of those dinosaur energies out onto the road. Just occurred to me, I didn't even take it around the block. Like, not so much as like through the neighborhood to you know, as a test drive after I adjusted stuff, I just backed it out of the garage. So here we go. Alright gang, we are cruising uphill and we are not losing any speed. I'm going to see if I can give it a little bit. If we actually increase in speed, I'm running out of room. Alright, we just went up that hill, which is the hill we've been doing over and over again and losing speed on. This time we did not lose any speed. It had a little trouble accelerating on the hill, but vast improvement. We're like tapping the steering wheel like, come on, come on, come on, trying not to get run over. So we've got more hills to go. We'll check it again. We're running relatively high RPM, 2,500, and our temperature's basically normal. All right, we just pulled off the highway. We just did about 30 miles-ish after some traffic. Then we got onto the highway, did 30 miles at 75 miles an hour, which is 2,600 RPM in a million-year-old truck with a tired old inline six. The timing absolutely helped. So far, so good on the temperature. Knock on wood, there's not a lot I could do if it overheats on the highway. Like, it's the kind of thing where adding an electric fan doesn't really do anything because you got 70 mile an hour winds already pounding through, but that worked out. I'm super pleased with it, actually. I felt like I had my foot in it way less, and it actually pulled up hills. Like, I couldn't really accelerate on the hills, but I didn't have to have my foot all the way in it. Like, I was kind of on the throttle. I decided to like really feed it the onions, give it the mustard, give her if you're from Canada, and it didn't do anything. But if I backed my foot out of the throttle, it still maintained speed just fine. So we're gonna call that, I would say, successful so far. You know, we're gonna keep driving it back and forth and we'll see what happens, but this far in the test, you know, we'll see. I'm stopping to pick up donuts for a coworker's birthday. You know, if you can find a reason to celebrate, I highly recommend doing it. And then we'll see how it does with a hot start with this advanced timing. Donuts achieved. Now we must achieve hot start. As far as the donuts goes, you know, like, any reason you can find to like have a good time at work, I recommend taking advantage of. All right, clutch, brake, key. Fired right up. I think we can call this timing change a pretty significant success. So successful that I'm wondering if I can bump it up another 3 degrees. We're at 9 right now to 12, which is kind of like the common thing for small block Chevys, which is like it'll probably give us total timing of somewhere 35, somewhere 34 to 36. I don't know, but 3 degrees did us a great improvement. I wonder if we could get 3 more out of it without having any sort of like overheating issues or, you know, pinging issues, which we definitely don't have right now, at least not overheating issues related to the timing. So anyway, thanks for watching Between the Sharks and our Summer of Reliability series. We'll be back. I mean, maybe we'll tune it again and kind of like use this insanely long commute as a pretty good road test for fine-tuning this car for, you know, street drivability, which is what I use for. What else would I use for? Anyway, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. Good luck on your projects out there. We'll see you next time.